Good morning, evening. Always mess it up. Good evening for me. So I'm just gonna say good evening, everybody. Uh, Welcome to yet another stream about spatialization from Daily. My name is Jayne Mast, and I am the engineering manager at for DevRel over at Daily. Um, and thank you for being here again. And in case you're watching it on YouTube, then thank you for watching it on YouTube. Um, the chat is open. I'm happy to answer any questions today on the chat. Um, so please respond and interact with me while I'm doing this. And I hope you all have a great time. And so what are we going to do today? Today we are going to do our fifth part of our spatialization demo. So in case you haven't seen the first four parts, no worries. I'm gonna explain it in very short what we did in the first four parts, and then we can just continue going. If you're watching this on YouTube, then I do recommend watching the first four parts. The first one we're talking about the tech stack, so you could skip that if you want, but the rest is gonna be it's very interesting to watch as well. Um, so, what is the spatialization demo, you might ask? Hi Lisa, thank you for being here again. Um, yeah, let me switch to my other. Oh, I hope that this is working. It doesn't seem like it's working. Just hold on a second. Trying to fix this. Um, what is happening? That's the wrong camera. Do you? Oh no, I don't see myself anymore. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna fix this. I think my camera is broken for a second. Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna live debug my own camera. That's gonna be fun. Um, so what do we have? We have this camera. This camera is supposed to be the my second camera, and for some reason it's not doing what I want. So I'm just gonna switch back and forth real quick and see if anything is happening then. Doesn't look like it. All right. Well, let's go back to camera one. Gonna try. It was working just before the stream, so I have no idea what's going on. Let's see if I can get into my camera settings for a second. If this doesn't work, then we're just gonna use this camera, and then you'll have to bear with me looking like this constantly. It looks like my camera is not working at this moment. All right. Well, I have no idea what's going on. Live streaming, am I right? I usually switch the some stuff around. I'm just gonna try that for a second. Maybe unplug some things. No, you know what? This is no fun to watch. So I'm just gonna go and do my live stream with this camera. So here you're gonna see the wrong camera for a second. I'm going to move that into that camera, and now you can still see me, but just not as perfect. And that's fine, right? So this is the important part anyway, not my face. But then I will be watching you like this sometimes, and for next time, who knows? It will probably work. So, as I said, part 5 of the demo. Oh, wait, what am I doing again? Part 5 of the spatialization demo. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so this is the URL. You can find it in our blog if you go to our spatialization tag, which shows all the parts of the demo. So we had the introduction and then all the other bits and pieces. Last time we implemented spatial audio and video, and before that we did the 2D worlds. And now we are going to go into broadcasting and gathering people into small groups. Now, if you have no idea what this demo is about, let me just show you real quickly. So we have this intro screen where you select your daily room in case you haven't done your daily room. Okay, now this is also going to mess up my camera for a bit. Oh no, everything is broken. Yeah. Okay, I can still move. You know what? Let me disallow my camera usage for a second, refresh the screen, start the demo again, and then select my FaceTime camera. Okay, here we should have video in the thing about video calls, right? So you can walk around here, you can go into a room where you then only talk to people inside your room. You can broadcast to everybody, so also inside other rooms. And then you can walk around and you have tables that you cannot walk through. You can walk with the arrows like I'm doing right now, or with WASD. That's also something we went through last time. And then you have different audio based on how far away you are from someone. So now we're going to talk about those interactive focus zones. So this broadcast to everybody and this room bit. So how does those bits work? Well, there's a thing called a spot. And spots are basically a location that, or like it says here, a location that a user can interact with. I'm going to look at you like this when I'm talking. So it's okay, so as I said, we have these different zones, and our world consists of a number of different zones, and each zone, like this and this, and also the global zone has an ID, a numeric ID, and they all have different behaviors. So this global traversal zone, like the big thing is where the user starts and where you can walk through. So this is the global traversal zone, and then you can be in earshot or in vicinity. And then we have the broadcast zone, heard by everybody else in the world. And then it doesn't even matter how close you are or how far you are. And then a focus zone where you can only see and hear the ones in the same zone. So our desk zone, like the thing where we are in right now, it consists of these 4 spots. So that's the spots. The spots, I should say better. It contains a table and a border and etc. But this is a location a user can interact with. It's very, very basic, so we won't get into this. Well, we'll just get into it a little bit. But it's basically it is a visual representation, this spots thing. So, and you can also keep track of who's currently in this spot. And besides that, it doesn't really do much. So with the constructor, you give, when you create the spot, you give them an ID, a position, and a size, emoji, and also an emoji. Oh yeah, that emoji is for this broadcast thing. So you can also add an emoji in it. So yeah, so the name is the ID. So you have the texture name is just spot texture name. Where do we get that? It's just called spot with an emoji. So this is just a constructor. It generates the texture that we want. So that's this bit over here, like the white border and everything, and then the emoji inside of it, and it generates that. And then I'm just trying to see if where it says who's in it, but maybe that is if you generate one. So let's look into a new spot. And then you have this dot spot, or here a desk zone new spot, and then you have a bigger thing. Okay, we'll go into that later. So the unique behaviors of each spot is in these different zones. So we have a broadcast zone and we have a desk zone, and that is where we define the unique behaviors of them. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that if you want to follow along with the code as well, then you can just go into GitHub and we have the code right there. So see if we have a link over here. It is at least in the introduction. Here we saw how you can set it up. So there is the daily spatialization demo where you can that you can run, and you have to run this terminal, and we're watching the v1.0.0. We have multiple versions. The main is also still working as well, but it's currently not exactly the same code as in the blogs, but you should be able to follow along as well if you just go to the main. So let's start with this one, the broadcast zone. So the video here is put into focus on the top left, and that is for other users as well. So let me show you when I go into as a second person. It is Jayne 2. I'm not gonna use that camera. So Jayne 1 is over here, Jayne 2 is over there. So here, and let's get a third version of me, Jayne 3. I wanted to do something fun, but I have no fun ideas right now. So here we have, so you can see here right now we have Jayne who's broadcasting. There's Jayne 2 who's in the koala room. I cannot see her because she's over there. And then we have, I can go into the kangaroo room and I can still see the Jayne that's broadcasting. So many Jaynes. And this Jayne can only see herself and not the people that are around her. So right now she can see Jayne 3, but it's not necessary if you're broadcasting because you're only focused on yourself. In the blog, Lisa had wrote, "You will listen to me and you will like it." Sounds a little bit like me right now. So yeah, the video's in focus. So let's look into how the broadcast zone looks code-wise. So we have this broadcast zone, which is a container. Pixie is the 2D engine that we're using. And it implements an iZone. An iZone is an interface that we created, which has these default methods and properties. So there's a try interact and a try place and a try unplace. Well, it means that it has to implement those methods and properties. Yes, that's what an interface does. And the interface iCollider, which again extends, has a physics boolean. The physics boolean means if you're able to collide with it, I guess. So if the user is allowed to pass through it or not. So for example, if physics is true, then you're not allowed to go through it. For example, with the table things that we have. And the hit tells us if the other collider, for example, the user, is touching the broadcast zone. So the other collider, meaning this one, is touching. Okay. Let's go back a little bit. So in our third video or our third blog, depending on how you follow this along, we had a broadcast zone. So we created it when we started the world. And so in the world.ts, there was this create a single broadcast spot. So we position our broadcast zone in the middle of our worlds. We do that by just dividing the default world size. Wait, is that true what I'm saying? X is 0. Y is... And then we're moving it again. Let me go back just a second. Zone broadcast. Why are we moving it? Why are we just not... Zone broadcast then move to default world size divided by 2. I'm not entirely sure why we move it after creating it and why we don't create it immediately in the right space. Why are we not doing this? So this is the X and Y. So why is this not? Oh, of course, because we need the width. Okay, that makes sense. Now it makes sense. So we need the width of the broadcast zone itself to determine where we want to put it. So the X is we want it exactly centered. Oh yeah, Lisa also wrote it in the chat. Makes sense. And then so after we create it, we append it to a container we call focus zones container, which is a PixiJS container, which holds the collection of all the display objects. And then because we also we have an array of I zones, which is this does focus zones, and that is because we want to refer to it to our custom interface. Because let's see, where are we using this again? This does focus zones. Okay, so we just so the container is what we need for PixiJS, and because we also want to refer to it in our custom interface methods, then we need to have the we need to add it to our own array as well. So let's go into the new broadcast zone. So that is the important part, of course. So what happens inside of the broadcast zone? So first off, the broadcast zone will create a new spot. That spot is, let's see, we have a ID, so this ID is 0 right now. Then we want to set the position, so it's in relation to the container, not global, so that's why we set it to X and Y to 0. Then we have a spot size, which we have a standard tile size that we defined in the config. In this case, it's 94, I guess, if I saw correctly. Yes, it's 94. And because we want to do the announcement thing on the broadcast, that's when we give the emoji, as I mentioned before. So it then adds the spots to the I zone, the I zone itself, to the container, and we have the text label that we made. Where did we make the text label? Create label. Yes. So we have a label that we want to create that says broadcast to all, and we also add that to the Pixie container. This is how we set the font and everything. We can define it however we want with the text function class, I guess. And then text.anchor is where we want to position the sprite. So as it says here, setting the anchor to 0.5 means the sprite origin is exactly centered. So that's where the text is anchored from. And then we have a position for the X, which would be the center of it, and then we 0 minus 20. And the position Y is 20 pixels beneath the above the thing, so minus 20 pixels. So then it would be here. So the anchor is like in the dead center here, in the center of the text. So okay, let me move back a little bit. So the X is here in the center. The Y is minus 20 pixels, so that's the top. And then if you want the text, you can want to anchor it in the middle, so that it, instead of going from left to right, it goes like into both directions. Then you do the anchor. Too much explanation for just a simple label. I could have just skimmed over that a little bit, but hey, I'm explaining things. I'm probably over-explaining some things. So, yeah, so we have this here. Sortable children. If set to true, the container will sort its children by Z index. Oh, yes. So, thank you, Carl. I always think it's never too much explanation, but you don't want to be here for 2 hours. I tried to go to sleep at one point, I guess. So that sortable children is based on the Z index of the children. So if it's stacked on top of each other. We might get into that later, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, let's go a little bit further. Let's go into a try interact. So the iZone, as we said before, needed to implement this try interact where you set a user, pass a user to. So here we check if the local user is so let me go back a little bit in case you've missed it. In one of the previous videos, we were talking about the update loop. So basically we keep having this constant loop that we check if when like how far you should move and where you are in the world and things like that. It was in part in the third video. So each tick we loop through all the focus zones and we see if the local user is interacting with any of them by calling try interact. So that is, I think maybe here, no. Check focus zones. Maybe here, yes, no, I don't know. I don't know exactly where that was. Oh, sorry, let me zoom in again. Oh, that's very zoomed in. Let me zoom out. Okay. Yes. Anyway, each tick we loop through all the focus zones and see if local users interacting with them by calling try interact. That is the thing where we were a moment ago. So that is here. We loop through all. No. Anyway, we loop through all the focus zones, and this is then the method of try interact. So we check if the user is colliding with the broadcast zone. That is what we're trying to do here. So if this dot hits other and is this spot, let me think for a second. Okay, so the broadcast zone container itself. Am I correct place? Yes. It is the size of all its children. In this case, our single spot. So the broadcast zone is the same size as this single spot. So if the user touches our spot, it should also be colliding with the broadcast zone container, right? So it collides with the spot, it collides with the broadcast zone. So if the user hits the broadcast zone and the zone's single spot is unoccupied, the user will occupy the spot. So if it hits the this is the user, other is the user. If this hits the broadcast zone and the spot, so that's the spot itself is unoccupied, then we go into that. I think I'm correct there. So, and then we say this.spot.occupant ID is other.id, so basically the user. So then we say, okay, so this, let me show you what it means. So I'm here. I'm now currently occupied there, but if this person wants to go in there, they cannot occupy it because there is already an occupant here. And then we say the user updates its zone with this ID. So that's a function in the user. Did we go through that? No, we did not go through that. That's later. So that's a function in the user. We say we update the current zone, and we'll go into that into detail a little bit later. If other.id equals this.spots.occupant ID, and it doesn't hit, so this means that if I decide to leave, so I'm gone, I'm back, I'm gone. If I decide to leave, that means that I'm not hitting, like the user is not hitting this anymore. So that means we should set it back to null and update it back into the global zone. In the case of this demo, we always assume that the broadcast zone is not touching any other zones. So if you leave the broadcast zone, you're back into the global zone. That's all this does right now. Or not, that's not all it does, but that's what this does. So what does the hits function do? So hits function itself is we get the bounce, which is a pixie thing for the rectangle of the spot. We get the bounce of other, and the other is the collider, so that is the user in our case. And then we have a function where we say does collide, where we pass x and y's of this and the other, and the width and height of this and the other, and then we do a function where we just check, well, where we just, I don't want to say just, but where we check if it collides, basically. So I won't go into detail about this part, but this basically checks if the x and y and the widths and everything is touching it. You could make this different by saying it only touches if you are at least in the a bit in the center, but for our case, it makes sense to just check the x and the width exactly. So if you're exactly touching and not overlapping, for example. By the way, Carl, you're still a lifesaver with giving me the control minus thing for going back into the previous function that you were. So this saves me so much time. Right, so that is the basic things for the broadcast zone. And then we have the desk zone, and the desk zone is a little bit different. So yeah, when you are in the desk zone and the total number of users is updated, and you can see more and more people joining. You get them all into the top here, which is nice. And then you can only hear each other inside of the room, and no more than 4 people can enter this room. So the difference between this and the broadcast is that more people can be into this zone at the same time. All of their video tracks will be shown in the same larger DOM elements, and all of their and this will be better if you want to sort of have a targeted chat. You'll also be able to do screen sharing, but that's for, I want to say video 7 screen share, or video 6 maybe? Video 6, yes. So here we have the desk zone again. So each desk zone itself consists of a desk, so you cannot go through it, and however many spots we choose. We can do more, we can do less. And we decided to create 2 desk zones. Let's see. New. When we created the world, we decided to create 2 desk zones, one called Koala with 4 spots, one called Kangaroo with 4 spots, and then the X and Y position there. So, here we have a desk. Let's see what else. So we have a couple of new things here. So we have the desk, we have an array of spots, we have 3 seats, zone markers, and then we have the label as well. So let's check out this desk first. Where is it again? Here, new desk. So this actually creates the spots that you're not able, or the thing that you're not able to walk through. So this is a collider, Pixie thing, a Pixie sprite that you're not able to go through. It check with the hits, see if it collides, and it has these physics that we talked about before. Let's see, here we generate the texture, which is a basic Pixie graphic. You can make it any color you want. Apparently we also try to add a line, but it's probably prettier if we want to have a fill. Not that much to it, actually. So let's just skip this for now. I think what is actually interesting is the try interact here in this. So this is the same try interact function that is being called through all the zones. If you loop, when we loop through all the zones for the users in the update loop, and it's a little bit more involved in that than the broadcast zone one, and that is because the desk zone has multiple zones instead of just the one. So we first loop through all the spots that are present in the zone. So that's 4 of them. So, and then we check here. So if the occupant ID is the same as the user ID, then it must mean that the user is already registered in this spot. And then we check if the user is still hitting that spot, and if it doesn't have a new spot. As new spot is a boolean, what we go into later, I guess. Yes, so oh yeah, that's what's happening later. So okay, so if the spot if the user is still in the spot, then we just do nothing, then we exit early. If the user is no longer in the spot, so that is when we have moved out of it, then we put the occupant ID back to null, and we say that it had a prior spot, which we'll use later in the loop, or outside the loop, after the loop. After the loop. If this spot has no occupant but the user hits it, then occupy it. So the spot has no occupant ID, but the user hits it. So that is when you go like boop, you hit it. Then the user's ID will be the occupant ID of that spot, and then we update the zone of the user again, as we did before with the broadcast zone. And then we say has new spot is true. Wait, let me go back. Let me go back to Jayne 3. I think what's happening here is that if I touch this, then I suddenly have the new spot. So then we also okay, so if we would have, like, if we would say, right now it occupies both. So here's like, okay, we say we have a new spot, hooray! Then we still want to remove us from the old spot so that someone else could join there. For example, like this. No, not like this. Sort of like that. I don't know exactly when that triggers, but but that's what it's supposed to be doing. And then if user is local user, if looker, okay, so what is hide zone marker? Oh, that's the border, I guess. Yes. So if you're the local user, then it will hide that border, or make it at least less visible. It's still slightly visible, like this green thing. You know, one thing I like in Firefox is double tapping or double finger tapping on something. Like you zoom in on one specific item. Works pretty nice. Sorry. Okay. Distracted again. Right, so this is basically oh yeah, just forgot about this. If a user has just left a spot and has not joined a new one, then they go back into the global zone. So they had a prior spot, they don't have a new spot, then the free seats will be updated and to one more. Well, the user will update to global zone, and then we show the zone marker again. Otherwise, if we did not have a prior spot, but we do have a new spot, then we remove a free seat, and that is 1 to 4 seats available. And if the seats change, then we update the label. So now we've seen this quite a few times, right? The update spot, we've seen it in the broadcast zone, but we've also seen it in the desk zone. So let's just go into how this exactly works. So the user, so yeah, this might be this is a very long one or slightly long one, and this is where a lot of things happen. There's a lot of inline comments, which is nice. So let's just go through this. So in the update zone, we pass in the zone ID, so that's a new zone. and we have a spot ID, which is a number. And if we don't pass the spot ID, it will be -1 as by default. Here we check for this specific user. So this is currently the user. So we check the zone data of the current user. So we get the zone ID and the spot ID. So that's when we say old zone ID, old spot ID. So first we check if it's identical, then we say, okay, nothing more to do. Let's go back. Should be fine. And then we update it by saying, okay, we have a new zone ID and we have a new spot ID. And that's not all, of course, that we're doing. That would have been way too easy. So if the old one was a broadcast zone, then we're gonna leave the broadcast. Otherwise, if the new zone is a broadcast zone, enter the broadcast zone. So leave broadcast zone, I will get into a little bit later. So let's go look into what enter broadcast does. So here we say if this.audio tag so we mute the user's audio tag. We say that they're updating as a current action. And then we show or update the broadcast. So we don't, we mute the audio tag because we're not listening to, where am I? This is the broadcast. So I'm going here. So I'm muting the audio tag because we don't want to hear anybody else. We just want to broadcast. Is that right? I think that's right. Mute audio, unmute audio. This is not muting my mic, right? Just checking for what it is exactly. Enter broadcasts. So this is based on a user and they have their own audio tag. Why are they so confused? I'm sorry. We're muting because the audio tag is used in the global zone. Oh, right. Okay, so this is what Lisa says. Lisa, by the way, wrote the blog and made the demo, so it's good that she's here. So we're muting because the audio tag is used in the global zone, along with our web audio API node chain, and the video is displayed via a Pixie sprite texture. When broadcasting, we are using a traditional video element, including both video and audio track in that video element's media stream. So otherwise, if we would have, we would have the audio twice. That's why we're muting the audio right here. So we then do show or update broadcast. So, and then we yeah, so then we see if we have a new video track. see if we have a video track and the camera is not disabled. Then we set the video track. We send the video track to the broadcast, and then we always have the audio track. So let's see if yeah. So unless the so if we have the camera disabled, then of course we don't set the video track, but we'll always send the audio track, and then the show broadcast is part of our tile functions. And then this part will create a new media stream. So if we have tracks, which is video or audio tracks, then we create a new media stream. I should have just got into these functions and then it would have made sense way more. So yeah. And then we display the broadcast div. And the broadcast div is this part here in the top left. I think. Why does it say broadcast div.draggable true and I cannot drag it? I can drag these, sort of, but not this one. Strange. And step back a little bit. See if we didn't forget anything. Oh, I'm doing the wrong one. We also want to try show screen share if we do that. Where were we? Try interact. Okay, yeah. So that is basically how let's see, was that everything I wanted to show there? Enter broadcast. I think so. I'm looking at the blog on my other screen, by the way, in case you're wondering. This was the update zone. Here we enter the broadcast. Leave other zones and other broadcasts if necessary. Set some default textures. Yeah. I guess that was that part. So then we're back in this update zone function from the user. So let's go into it a little bit further. So we had this enter broadcast. Then if the new zone is not the global zone or the broadcast zone, then we set the default sprite textures. We've gotten into that, like, I think last video, what that was. And now we only go through the rest if we are a local user. Now these are also important, of course, but if one of the user, like if this all these functions also go for every other user that you see. So this is not just for the local user, this is for all the other users. So now go into just the things that are important for the local users. So now we're checking, like, resets the user's zone mates if they're not coming from the global zone, if the old zone is not the global zone. If the old zone ID, so if you're not coming from the global zone, so if you're coming from one of the other zones, then you don't have any zone mates anymore. Zone mates are people in your zone. And the global zone, everybody is your zone mate if you don't call them zone mates. You're not local zone mates at least. And then if we have a unjoin zone function, then we will call this unjoin zone thing. And this function is something that we pass along in our room class. So room.ts, we have this unjoin zone function. And this will then be called when we join the zone. Again, that's what we were doing, of course. So as you can see that this here makes a call to set bandwidth. We talked about it in the second blog. So this updates the size of the video that you're sending, or yeah, receiving, sending, I guess. So if you join the zone, then you set the bandwidth of a tile, or you set the bandwidth of the focus. Sometimes you stop screen sharing, but we'll go into that later. Next week, we'll go into that next week, and then you broadcast. Broadcast in this case means send it to everybody else. So then everybody else will get a zone change message. So what happens then? So everybody else will get a zone change message with all this zone data. As you see, there's a handle app message that was sometimes being called when you get an app message, and then you get this zone change. If you get this zone change, then you go into the update participant zone. So here we retrieve the user being updated. So first we try to get the user. If the user doesn't exist, which happens sometimes, then we create a new user. So if you do update zone, if someone enters the global zone for the first time, then they don't have the user yet. First we get then the old zone data from the user, and we make sure that the local users' zone mates are also being updated. So with updated, I mean that is this new user a new zone mate of the other user? Is this new user the zone mate of the local user? Then we save them in our zone mates, and otherwise we'll remove them from our zone mates. Do so save zone mate is just adding them to the array. So then we check, is the user is this user the zone mate of the local user? Then we send our local position data to this zone mate so that I can see exactly where we are within the zone. Let's see. Does it mean that if I move here? Ah, no. Send back to make sure the newly joined participant knows exactly where we are. Send position data to participant. Yeah, so as you can see here, these only know where I am roughly, not exactly. Same goes for this. So they know which seat they are, but not exactly where they are in the zone. But if you're a zone mate, then you will send that position data. And then we iterate through all these focus zones and we try to place them in spots where needed. Iterate through all focus zone and try to place unplaced user in communicated zone and spot as needed. So we use the try place and try unplace functions of the zones themselves, which was another function that we said that a zone was required to have. So if you go into the broadcast zone, for example, the try place attempt, it looks kind of like this. So if this spot has an occupant ID, then it checks we try to place them on, we try to move the users there. So that is like what's happening here. It's very similar, by the way, in the, sorry, I'm very quiet. I'm trying to read and that's not good. Sorry I was so quiet. It's here, it's similar. It just updates the label and the free seats as well. And then let me just show you where we are in the blog post right now. So we have gotten way down here already. At least. Yeah, so this is where we are right now. It's the update participant zone, of course. So this is where we talked about updating a participant when you get a message about the, what was it called again? Zone change message. So then it's just that we know where we need to place it and what video we should show. Or not what video we should show, but where they are exactly in a specific zone. So then we have our last final thing before we leave. It's already 9:05. So for me at least, it's almost my bedtime. No, just kidding. I just don't want to keep you all here for much longer than the hour that I normally do. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the ticks, and I like that Lisa said the good kind because, yeah, you know, I'm getting tired. I'm so sorry. Just needed to take a drink, relax a little bit. All right, so You might recall from my last post that we call process user function on the local user, which each tick of the world. So this is in the update function. Every tick is happening here. We do a process users and a check focus zones. We're going to talk about. Where is this? Okay, so this is in the process users. Okay, so OZ ID is others zone ID. So we've gone through this function a little bit, but now we have to talk about a little bit more about the users. So if the users are in the same zone that is not the same zone as your this zone data, this user. So if they're in the same zone that is not the global, the default zone, we say that they're entering the vicinity and we display them as zone mates in the focused mode. So we save them as a zone mate, which I showed before. Then if media, the current action is not in zone, is not in vicinity. Right, we say that they enter the vicinity of the current user. So we're always in the vicinity. That's what I showed very early on. I think vicinity area. So that's you can still see each other, and that's not the same thing. If they're not already in the zone, okay, thanks Lisa. Basically, if they're not already in the zone and the vicinity of the other user, we enter vicinity and we subscribe to them. Oh, right. So, okay, thank you. So when a user enters the vicinity of someone else, we subscribe to their video and audio tracks. So basically, we say if they are not already in the zone and in the vicinity of the other user, we enter the vicinity and subscribe to their video and audio tracks when they get into the same zone. And then we'll mute the other's audio since we'll be streaming via a zone. So that's just an extra thing that you need to take care of then. I think that was it. This was everything about the zones. So this was quite a complex thing, and but it is at least something that I was talking about in almost every video. Let's go back here. Hi, talk about in every other video like the zones because it's a very important part of the sort of the virtual office idea to have these zones so that you can just talk to each other without being interrupted or without having sort of listening to everybody else. You can have these small group chats or broadcasts to everybody else. It's sort of a breakout room when you look into like things like Zoom or something like that, but then more office-like, or maybe even have it over in a conference, a virtual conference. So yeah, thank you again for joining. The next video will be next week, of course, again on Wednesday. Maybe like the previous week I didn't do any streams about OBS clone. That is one of the other videos I do sometimes. I'm hoping I can do one in the coming week. Thank you, everybody. And next week we'll do screen sharing, which is also complex but very interesting feature that I will then explain a little bit. And then after that we have the final week where we talk about testing everything with robots. Should be fun, right? All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for being on the chat. And I hope to see you all next week. Goodbye.